Olivia Morrison stood by the window, gazing at the certificates and diplomas hanging on the doctor's office wall. Her slender fingers instinctively moved to her abdomen, gently caressing the absence of the life that should have been there. The 7th failed IVF attempt. How many times had she experienced this same scene? Let's talk about the results. Startled by Dr. Hamilton's voice, Olivia turned to see sympathy in the doctor's kind eyes. That look alone was enough. Another failure. It didn't work this time either, did it? Olivia said, her voice trembling. I'm sorry, but no. We couldn't confirm embryo implantation, the doctor continued, carefully choosing her words. You two have really tried hard for 2 years now. Terrence's sperm count is good, and there's nothing wrong with the quality of your eggs. But sometimes, there's a barrier to fertility that medical science just can't explain. Olivia sat down on the sofa and stared at the smartphone she'd taken from her purse. She needed to contact her husband Terrence. The mere thought of how he would take this news made her stomach clench. Terrence was one of Boston's elite attorneys. A man who constantly sought victory and wouldn't tolerate failure. 7 years ago, when Olivia had declared, "I vow my love and loyalty," at their wedding ceremony, she never imagined their marriage would become a series of trials. As she got into her car, Olivia took a deep breath. Her job as an interior designer was to transform other people's houses into beautiful, comfortable spaces. Ironically, her own home was gradually becoming cold and uncomfortable. Her cell phone rang, displaying her mother-in-law Carol's name on the screen. Olivia hesitated for a moment, then resolutely pressed the answer button. How did the test go today? Carol's sharp voice jumped into her ear. No greeting, just her usual directness. It was negative again, Olivia answered quietly. A sigh could be heard from the other end of the phone. To think that you can't give Terrence children. Carol's voice contained obvious disappointment. The Morrisons are a 3-generation family of lawyers. We need an heir. You understand that, don't you? Olivia listened in silence. This wasn't their first conversation like this. To Carol, she was merely a tool for continuing the family line. It pained her to know that in her mother-in-law's eyes, she was nothing but a defective product for failing at this role. Vanessa would probably have no problem having children, Carol added. Every time her sister Vanessa's name came up, Olivia's chest tightened. Vanessa had always been perfect. Beautiful, intelligent, and successful. And above all, always Carol's favorite. We're trying our best. The doctor told us to keep hope, Olivia protested weakly. Carol scoffed. At 35, after failing 7 fertility treatments. Face reality, Olivia. After the call ended, Olivia rested her head on the steering wheel and quietly wept. Since her father's death, her life seemed to be crumbling bit by bit. Her mother Eleanor had started a new life with her remarried partner Richard, and her relationship with Olivia had grown cold. Richard had enormous influence over Eleanor, and his values, money, success, social status, had changed Eleanor's thinking as well. The once warm mother now looked down on her daughter. You had your chance, why don't you try harder? Learn from Vanessa. These were the only words her mother spoke to her recently. When she got home, Terrence had unusually returned early. He sat on the living room sofa, covering his face with both hands. Terrence. Olivia called out nervously. He looked up and stared at Olivia. Not a trace of emotion in his eyes. How were the results? Negative, Olivia answered in a small voice. A long silence. Terrence slowly stood up and reached for the whiskey bottle. I see, he said, pouring the amber liquid into a glass. We can try again. Dr. Hamilton. Enough, Terrence coldly cut off her words. That's enough, Olivia. That night, they slept in separate beds. Olivia stared at the ceiling, feeling her marriage silently crumbling. A week later, Terence suddenly appeared in the living room and placed a stack of divorce papers in front of her. "What's this?" Olivia picked up the papers with trembling hands. "Let's end it, Olivia." Terence's voice was cold and determined. "It's been 7 years. There's no future with a woman who can't have children. I need an heir for the Morrison family." "But, we..." Olivia's words caught in her throat. "Weren't we supposed to love each other?" Terence scoffed. "Love? That was before the marriage. What do we have left now?" The divorce proceedings moved quickly. With a lawyer like Terence as her opponent, Olivia had no chance. When she was cleaning up the house for the last time, an email accidentally opened on Terence's laptop. It recorded intimate exchanges with her sister Vanessa. "Can we meet tonight? Yesterday was amazing. I'll be free soon. Olivia won't be in the way anymore." Olivia's world completely shattered. Her husband's infidelity was with her own sister. The real reason Terence was leaving her wasn't infertility, but to start a new life with her sister. The documents fell from her hands, and tears dropped onto the scattered papers on the floor. On the day the divorce was officially finalized, Olivia stood in front of her parents' house. A 2-story house with a calm exterior. Once her place of comfort, it now felt like a stranger's home. Since her father's death, this house had become something different from the warm home in her memories. When she rang the doorbell, her mother Eleanor opened it. No trace of her former gentleness remained. Her face wore an expression of cold indifference. Eleanor said with surprise, "What do you want?" Olivia took a deep breath. "I need to talk to you. May I come in?" Eleanor hesitated for a moment but opened the door. In the living room, her stepfather Richard sat on the sofa, reading a newspaper. He threw a cold glance at Olivia without interrupting his reading. "The divorce went through," Olivia quietly announced. "As of today, it's officially over between Terence and me." Eleanor looked at Richard, then sighed. "It's your own fault. You couldn't make Terence happy." Olivia cried out in surprise. "Terence betrayed me. He..." "I know," Eleanor said, sitting down on the sofa. "I've known for a long time that he was going to leave you." Olivia's heart raced. "What are you saying?" "You were making Vanessa and Terence suffer," Eleanor said coldly. "They truly love each other, but you were holding them back." Olivia's legs went weak. "You knew about them?" Of course, Eleanor's voice contained not a trace of compassion. "Terence can make Vanessa happy. He's a wonderful man, worthy of our family. You couldn't make him happy." Richard put down his newspaper and joined the conversation. "I heard from Carol that you failed fertility treatments multiple times." His tone contained obvious contempt. "What value does a woman have if she can't continue the family line?" Tears welled up in Olivia's eyes. "How can you say such things? I'm your daughter." Eleanor stood up and directed an icy gaze at her daughter. "You're being thrown away because you're an infertile defect. Get out. You're a disgrace to the family." Those words pierced Olivia's heart like a knife. To think such words would come from the mouth of the mother who once held her in her arms and called her, "my precious treasure." "You're a worthless daughter," Richard joined in. "You've brought shame to our family. Losing a man like Terence and trying to steal your sister's happiness." Olivia shook her head. "I didn't steal anything. They betrayed me." At that moment, the living room door opened, and Vanessa appeared. Perfectly styled blonde hair, an elegant dress, and a large diamond ring sparkling on her finger. "Hello, big sister," Vanessa's tone contained false intimacy. Olivia looked at her sister, trembling with anger and sadness. Why? We were supposed to be sisters. Vanessa smiled with a smirk. There wasn't a trace of guilt in her smile. Actually, he's going to be my new husband. She raised her hand to show off her ring. Terrence and I are already engaged. He truly loves me. I won't make him unhappy like you did, and I'm sure we'll have children soon. Olivia felt like her stomach was turning over. You people are the worst, her voice trembled. Accept reality, Eleanor said coldly. Terrence didn't love you. He divorced you to be happy with Vanessa. She can give him children. Olivia grabbed her bag with trembling hands and headed for the door. I'm no longer your daughter. That's right, you're not, Eleanor answered emotionlessly. I have no use for a worthless daughter. Don't show your face again. As Olivia headed for the front door, Vanessa's cold voice followed her. I'll send you an invitation to my wedding with Terrence. Of course, you don't have to come. As Olivia left the house in tears, the entire family was seeing her off. But it wasn't a loving farewell, it was triumphant mockery. She was experiencing the most lonely moment of her life. The people she once loved, her husband, mother, sister, they had all betrayed and abandoned her. The sound of the front door closing behind her delivered the final blow to Olivia's heart. She got into her car, rested her head on the steering wheel, and cried out loud. Her life felt torn to shreds, her hope for the future stolen. Rain began to fall, the raindrops streaming down Olivia's windshield seeming to echo her tears. Where should she go now? With her home, family, and husband all lost, what awaited her? Olivia started the engine. All she knew was that she had to get away from this place of pain and betrayal. She drove off into the rain without looking back at her childhood home one last time. Are you sure this is okay? Catherine Reynolds asked skeptically, looking around the shabby apartment. My place. It's fine, Olivia smiled weakly, turning down her friend's offer. You've already helped me enough. I'm starting over from here. Catherine sighed. As a friend since college, she had witnessed the pain Olivia had experienced over the past few weeks. She couldn't forget how Olivia had knocked on her apartment door in tears the previous night. At least let me help you arrange your things, Catherine said resolutely. The two spent most of the afternoon placing Olivia's belongings, the few things she was allowed to take from the luxurious mansion she had shared with Terrence, in the small one-bedroom apartment. There was no sophisticated designer furniture, no luxurious furnishings. But at least there were no traces of the people who had betrayed and hurt her. I'll start looking for work tomorrow, Olivia said, standing by the window and gazing at the small park across the street. Catherine looked at her friend with concern. With your talent, you'll find interior design work again soon. But I've lost all the clients I had through Terrence's connections, Olivia voiced the bitter reality. I have to start from scratch. That night, after Catherine left, Olivia lay in bed staring at the ceiling. In her head, her mother's words repeated over and over, infertile defect, family disgrace, get out. As tears soaked her pillow, she asked herself, was she truly worthless? The next morning, Olivia was ordering coffee at a cafe near her apartment. Sitting by the window, looking through job listings, she overheard two women talking at the next table. We urgently need volunteers for these children, the older woman was saying. They were rescued from a terrible abuse situation last week. But we're understaffed at Second Chance. Olivia turned toward them instinctively. Excuse me, what is Second Chance? The older woman, who introduced herself as Martha Johnson, smiled. We're a non-profit organization that supports children rescued from abuse and abandonment. Right now, we're looking for volunteers for a special project. The next day, Olivia stood in front of the Second Chance office. It was a small building, but it had a warm atmosphere. Opening the door nervously, she saw staff members busily working. "Ms. Olivia Morrison," a voice called from the reception desk. "Martha is waiting for you." The first day of volunteer work was the beginning of a life-changing experience for Olivia. She joined a project to renovate an old warehouse into a safe space for children rescued from abuse. For the first time, her interior design skills were being used to truly help people, not just for profit. As weeks passed, Olivia spent more and more time at Second Chance. Her kindness and perseverance shone through in her interactions with the traumatized children. She realized that by understanding her own pain, she could empathize with others' suffering. "You have a special talent," Martha told her one day. "The children trust you. I'd like to hire you as a staff member." Olivia looked at her in surprise. "Really? But I don't have qualifications or experience." Martha smiled kindly. "You know deep pain in your life. That's the best qualification. To heal wounded hearts, you first need to understand the pain of wounds." And so Olivia became a full-time employee at Second Chance. The daily work was never easy, but she experienced true fulfillment for the first time. Her past pain had now transformed into a strength to help others. 6 months later, the center received an emergency call. A 3-month-old baby girl had been found in a serious state of neglect. The baby's name was Lily. Her parents were drug addicts who couldn't properly care for her. "The problem is that there's no foster parent available to take her in right now," Martha explained at the staff meeting. "We need someone who can care for her, even temporarily." Silence dominated the room. Everyone was already at full capacity. Olivia said in a voice stronger than even she expected, "I'll do it." That night, Olivia sat in a rocking chair in her apartment's living room, holding little Lily. As she gazed at the fragile baby's face, a strange feeling spread through her heart. Is this what becoming a mother feels like? The pain of failed fertility treatments, Terence's betrayal, rejection from her family, all those pains seemed to be gradually healing through this encounter with this tiny life. "Lily," Olivia whispered gently. "I'll protect you. I promise." The first few weeks were a continuous struggle. Night feedings, diaper changes, days of soothing a crying baby. However, Olivia adapted to the role of a mother with surprising naturalness. Lily's first smile, the moment her tiny hand grasped Olivia's finger, all of these brought deep joy to her heart. Her biological parents have no prospect of rehabilitation, Martha informed Olivia 3 months later. The court is moving to terminate their parental rights. Lily will likely be put up for formal adoption. Olivia felt her chest constrict. Parting with Lily, the thought had become unbearable now. Could I? She hesitated. Could I adopt her? Martha smiled warmly. Actually, I was hoping you would. The adoption process was complex and time-consuming, but Olivia never gave up. Social worker visits, countless documents, court hearings, she endured it all. And a year later, on the day the judge made the final decision, Olivia held little Lily in court and wept. "Congratulations, Ms. Morrison," the judge stated warmly. "From today, you are Lily Morrison's legal mother." As she left the courthouse, Olivia looked up at the clear sky. She reflected on the journey from the deep despair she experienced 2 years ago to today's joy. In her heart, she spoke to her past self, "See, we're okay. We have a family. Not connected by blood, but connected by love, a real family." Olivia gently embraced Lily. She was no longer a defective product. She was a mother. "Lily, make sure you hold my hand," Olivia said, firmly gripping her daughter's small hand. Walking through the crowded shopping mall, she made sure her 3-year-old daughter didn't run off in excitement. "I want ice cream." Lily looked up at Olivia with sparkling eyes, her black curls bouncing. Olivia smiled. I promise, after we finish shopping. Since her promotion to director of Second Chance, Olivia's life had become even busier. Her innovative program for supporting abused children had gained national attention, and recently she had secured a major grant from the federal government. Today she had taken a rare day off to go shopping with Lily. Olivia briefly gazed at her own reflection in a glass shop window. She looked like a different person from 3 years ago. Confident eyes, a sophisticated air, and above all, the quiet happiness residing in her face. A quiet strength that only those who have overcome suffering possess. Look! Dolls! Following Lily's pointing finger, Olivia saw the toys section. Shall we go take a look? Olivia gently stroked Lily's head. Just as they were about to head toward the toys section, Olivia stopped. In the mall's central rest area, she spotted 3 all too familiar figures. Eleanor, Richard, and Vanessa. Time seemed to stand still. A reunion after 3 years. Olivia's heart began to race. While she felt the urge to flee, she took a deep breath, conscious of holding Lily's hand. I've become stronger, she told herself. What's wrong? Lily looked up at her mother curiously. Brought back to reality by that voice, Olivia smiled. Nothing, Lily. She would not run away. Olivia steeled her resolve and moved forward, still holding Lily's hand. As she walked toward the table where the 3 sat, Vanessa noticed her first. Her eyes widened, her expression frozen in shock. Then Eleanor and Richard also noticed her presence. Olivia. Eleanor's voice was filled with doubt and surprise. Olivia stopped, maintaining her composure. Hello, Mother. Richard, Vanessa. Her voice was calm but confident. The 3 stared at her, seemingly at a loss for words. Olivia's transformation was evident. The vulnerable woman of the past had vanished, replaced by a woman full of dignity and confidence. But their gaze quickly shifted to the little girl standing next to Olivia. That child is... Eleanor began in confusion. My daughter, Olivia answered quietly. Vanessa stood up, visibly shaken. Her expression showed confusion and suspicion. Who is she? Her voice trembled. You shouldn't be able to have children. Lily stood behind Olivia's leg, looking up fearfully at the strangers. Olivia placed a reassuring hand on her daughter's shoulder. This is Lily, Olivia said calmly. My precious daughter. But how? Eleanor said in confusion. There was obvious calculation in her eyes. She was probably comparing the time since Olivia had been disowned with this child's age. She's my adopted daughter, Olivia told the truth. A child rescued from abuse at 3 months old, 3 years ago. I became her mother. Adopted. Richard said in a contemptuous tone. So not a real child. Olivia's eyes flashed sharply. Lily is my real daughter. The bond of love is stronger than the bond of blood. At those words, the 3 fell silent. What exactly are you doing now? Richard asked irritably. I'm the director of a non-profit organization called Second Chance, Olivia answered matter-of-factly. We work to protect children from abuse and abandonment. Last month, we secured a major grant from the federal government. That program. Eleanor said slowly. I saw it on TV. The woman who developed a new protection system, that was you. Olivia nodded calmly. How's Terrence? Vanessa suddenly asked. There was anxiety in her voice. I don't know, Olivia answered honestly. I cut off all contact with him 3 years ago. Vanessa's expression clouded. She had changed over the past 3 years as well. The former radiance was gone, and her tired face had already begun to show fine wrinkles. We. She faltered. We split up after a year. Olivia showed no surprise. I see, she responded simply. In her heart, there was no longer anger or hatred from the past. Only a quiet understanding and confidence that her life was moving in the right direction. Mommy, ice cream. Lily reminded her in a small voice. Olivia smiled at her daughter. Yes, I promised, didn't I? She turned back to her family. Please excuse us. Wait, Eleanor suddenly called out. For the first time, a tinge of regret appeared on her face. Could we talk, sometime? Olivia thought for a moment and took out a business card. Here's my contact information. Feel free to reach out if you want to. She calmly placed the card on the table and began walking away, holding Lily's hand. Who were they? Lily asked on the way to the ice cream shop. People Mommy used to know, Olivia answered gently. What's important is that we're together now. While eating ice cream, Olivia saw through the window that her family was still sitting in the same place. They appeared to be arguing intensely. Eleanor seemed to be crying, Vanessa was angrily waving her hands. Richard's face was red, apparently shouting something. Olivia observed the scene calmly. These people who had once hurt and rejected her. Now they were disturbed by her new life, her success, and above all, the fact that she had become a mother. After all, she had accomplished what they said was impossible, just in a different way. Is it good? Olivia asked Lily. Lily nodded enthusiastically, her mouth smeared with chocolate ice cream. Olivia gently stroked her daughter's head. 3 years ago, she thought she had lost everything. Her family, her husband, and the possibility of becoming a mother. But life takes strange paths. When she was in her deepest despair, fate showed her a new way. The encounter with the small life that was Lily, and the opportunity to become the mother she had desperately wanted. As they left the mall, Olivia didn't look back. The past no longer controlled her. Before her eyes was only the bright future she would build with Lily. And that was a family, in the truest sense, shaped not by blood ties, but by choice and love. I love you, Mommy, Lily suddenly said. Olivia smiled. Mommy loves you too, Lily. Forever. As they got into the car, Olivia's smartphone rang. It was an email notification. The news that Second Chance's new program had been nominated for a national award. Olivia was enveloped in a quiet sense of satisfaction. Her life had blossomed in the most unexpected way, in the most beautiful form. The morning sun streamed into Olivia's spacious office. The window offered a panoramic view of Boston, and the new headquarters of Second Chance symbolized her success. She was reviewing materials for today's meeting while taking a sip of coffee. Looking up at the sound of a knock, she saw the receptionist peering in. Miss Morrison, you have a visitor. A Miss Eleanor Williams. Olivia caught her breath for a moment. 3 weeks had passed since the reunion at the shopping mall. There had been no contact from her mother, and Olivia thought she had thrown away the business card. Please show her in, she said quietly. The door opened, and Eleanor timidly entered the room. She looked even older than 3 weeks ago. Her eyes were red, and her hands trembled slightly. Olivia, Eleanor said in a small voice. Thank you for seeing me. Olivia stood up and guided her mother to a chair. Would you like some coffee? Eleanor nodded, offering a grateful smile. A tense silence flowed between them. Richard died, Eleanor suddenly said. Last week, of a heart attack. Olivia's eyes widened in surprise. I'm sorry for your loss, she said sincerely. He wasn't a good person, Eleanor confessed tearfully. I was controlled by him. That day, when I threw you out, it was on his instructions. But that's no excuse. She looked up, meeting her daughter's eyes directly. I betrayed you. I did the worst thing a mother could do. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I wanted you to know, I deeply regret it. Olivia listened to her mother's words in silence. The anger of the past had faded, replaced by a quiet understanding. You should know about Vanessa and Terrence too, Eleanor continued. Their marriage is falling apart. Terrence developed a gambling addiction and was fired from his law firm. He's in debt and lost their home. And she hesitated a little. Vanessa is infertile, she can't have children. Ironically, Terrence is throwing the same words at her that he used with you. Olivia felt a pain in her chest. She hadn't wished for revenge, but she still felt a strange sentiment at fate's peculiar turn. Forgiveness and restoring a relationship are different things, Mother, Olivia said quietly. But I think Lily has the right to know her grandmother. If you'd like, why don't you try building a relationship with her? Tears welled up in Eleanor's eyes. Really? I don't feel like I deserve that. We can't change the past, Olivia answered calmly. But the future is different. Lily is a child who can receive plenty of love. I think it's fine if there's one more person to love her. That afternoon, Olivia made an important announcement in the Second Chance conference room. Their new program would be implemented nationwide. Behind her as she stood to thank her staff hung a photo of her new family. In addition to Lily, there were 2 children she had recently adopted, 5-year-old Michael and 7-year-old Sophia. Returning to her office, she noticed a local newspaper placed on her desk. There was a small article on the social page. Prominent lawyer files for bankruptcy. Arrested for assaulting ex-wife. Terrence's photo accompanied it. Olivia closed the newspaper. There was neither joy nor sadness in her heart. She was simply confident in the rightness of the path she had chosen. That night, as she tucked her 3 children into bed, she reflected on life's mysterious turns. The woman once called an infertile defect had now become the mother of 3 wonderful children and the nationally respected director of an organization. After the children had fallen asleep, Olivia gazed at the night view from the living room window. Behind her was the warm home she had designed with all her heart. A true family built not by blood ties, but by love and choice. That was the most precious gift she had received in her life.